110, 112. It's kind of like refreshing. You get into the 80s after you've been in 100-degree weather all day, and it's pretty darn nice. And so I'm looking forward to a nice night after the show here is done. And we'd like to bring on our guest here. I'm not sure if we can. It's still dead. I don't see anything coming from his microphone, but Zezoro from zezoro.blogspot.com. He's actually an independent media analyst, media intelligence and analyst coming out of Warsaw in Poland. And of course, with what's happening here, we asked him to come on. I don't see that he is here. I think, Mr. Zezoro, I'm going to just disconnect you because you're not here, and then try to log back in because I just disconnected him, guys, because he's not coming through at all. So maybe it's a software issue. I know for me today, I had a lot of troubles connecting equally. So hopefully he will try again because we could not hear him. If he's listening, Zezoro, that's why I did it. I can't hear you. We're not killing you away. So, but we need you to try again. So let's see if he tries again. There he is. It's connecting. And I saw a little blip. Zezoro, are you now live in the studio?
Yes, I am. I suppose so. I hear you loud and clear.
Very good. I can hear you too, and the hiss is pretty good too. So you had a bad hiss earlier today. So, okay, great. How are you?
Thank you. Under the weather, actually, but
really,
I'm happy to hear you again.
Well, okay, yeah, you sound a little under the weather. I'm over the weather. It's 90 degrees here, and I'm sweating up a storm. I got a little kitten down here. I got a new kitten in the house, and I had to kick her off because she keeps disconnecting cables. But other than that, I'm feeling great, dude. So sorry to hear you're under the weather. But with what's happened this past week with Putin and what's going on in Ukraine, with Sikorsky, one of your former, I think, members of parliament, former prime ministers, I believe, married to one of our great hawks, neocon hawks, making comments. I thought, let's get you in the door here to report a little bit what's going on with Nord Stream 1 and 2. What's the Polish press saying? What's the German press saying? Because you read things we can't read. So let's start with that. Well, first of all, let's start with, I guess, what do you call it? Visegrad, right? Visegrad, and the idea that Poland is going to be the natural gas distributor for Eastern and Central Europe. How is that going right now?
The project seems to go down the tubes, because the energy balance doesn't work for Europe. Look at what happened. Somebody, you can easily guess who, broke all the channels of delivery of hydrocarbons from the east. That was 30 up to 50% of the total volume in Europe. And now we have sanctions, the eighth packet of a sanction against Russia. That means we have practically no oil, no gas, and we will, I suppose, in the next 2 weeks have price caps for the imported oil for Hungary and some other countries of our bloc. And it seems simply desperate, the situation, because we will make it through the winter, but barely, with very heavy casualties in our industries that need energy. Simply, you cannot work without energy, you cannot produce. And when you buy this energy for 4 times or 5 times the cost, you are simply not competitive anymore. And that is the real deal here, and that is the real goal of this operation. Who is the main culprit? You can guess.
Well, everyone's saying it's the United States on that one. Of course, that has to go investigation, but we'll go from there. Next question, though, is from what we heard, is that a new pipeline opened between Norway and Poland. Is that fake news, or what's going on with that?
It is fake news, and it isn't, because the pipeline works okay. It was opened before the schedule, but we need gas to fill it up, you know. And I'm not sure that our politicians saw to it that the pipe will be full this season. And from what I gather here from the information in the Ministry of Energy, they won't have it full this season. That means it's so far it is meaningless, you know. You can have the pipe, but without fuel in this pipe, it's pretty useless.
Now, it's also the fuel is going to come from Norway, and Norway has said straight up, listen, we're a business here. We are not interested in playing the political game. If you buy from us, you pay market price, and we're not going to be discounting for anybody. So that doesn't necessarily bode well for Poland anyways, because trying to redistribute gas that they're paying retail for anyways isn't really a good business model. What is happening with that?
The pipe originally wasn't thought of as a hub, energy hub for Europe, because the volume that can be achieved in this way is simply put very puny. 10 billion cubic meters per year, whereas Nord Stream 1 has the capacity of 55 billion cubic meters, and Nord Stream 2 double it, 55 billion. Together, 110 billion cubic meters of natural gas from Russia. Now we get zero. Guess who will buy as first? Poland or Germany, for example, on open market. When Poland needs about 20 billion cubic meters gas per year, and Germany 90 to 100 billion cubic meters.
Okay, let's step that back a bit. You're saying Poland requires 20 billion cubic meters. Now, you guys have a very robust coal reserves, which people don't necessarily know, but you have, from what I understand, very high degree of coal reserves in your country. But if you need 20 billion and this pipeline was only going to bring 10 billion cubic meters a year, that's like only half of your total needs of the year. Hardly would that be a distribution hub. You know what I mean? So the news that they're spreading in America is certainly fake, because they're saying, oh, this is just timed just perfectly because the pipeline just opened, and it basically implying that the pipeline to Germany is shut down so that Poland could take over the distribution. And you're saying that is absolutely just not even on the table.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
Really? What about now your I think it's a former Prime Minister, Sikorsky, comes out with some tweets, purportedly, because who knows, it's all social media, saying, thank you, America. What is up with this guy, and what do you think is behind some of the thoughts of these politicians?
Sikorsky was the originator of the Maidan coup 8 years ago. When you go back in history, you will see he ran the racket, so to speak, with Verkhovna Rada, that means the parliament in Kiev. He brought from Washington the ultimatum, and from Brussels, either you will comply here, or you will have some coup d'etat and war. And the people in the parliament complied, and they constructed some intermediary body for I don't know what is called in Ukrainian, the prime minister office, so to speak. It wasn't sworn normally in parliament. It was sworn, so to speak, between the doors. And the godfather of this business was Radosław Sikorski. Then he was deputy prime minister and the minister for foreign affairs in Poland. His colleague in this coup was Anna Applebaum, you know, his wife, and your Victoria Nuland from Foreign Office from America. Now Victoria Nuland is working in Foreign Office, I mean the State Department, with Applebaum as her speechwriter. So you see some train of thought and train of business activity through the years in this show. What does mean Sikorski with his tweet? It is genuine. I checked this up. I suppose he took one dose of white powder too much, simply, for this occasion. And it means nothing because Sikorski is known for his statements, not always diplomatic, you know. So it means practically nothing. You know, we know who did it with Nord Stream 1 and 2. Old Latin saying says, who did it? It's simple. Who takes benefits from it? As simple as that. Does Russia benefit from distracting their own pipelines? I don't think so.
No, they have no leverage now. Their leverage is completely gone. All they can do now is beg Ukraine to ship more, and that helps the Biden regime, you know, the Biden, Hunter Biden, and some of these other people that are behind on the gas transport. That's who this benefits. So this almost, to me, looks like a mafia job. This isn't a state-run type of operation. This is the mafia, literally organized crime going in and saying, hey, you're going to buy from us now, aren't you? And just take out the pipelines.
For the first look, you are right, but by the second look, you are not. Why? When there is mafia business going on, Putin is on his field, you know, it is his business. He won't flinch. He will play hardball. What does it mean? He will starve Europe energetically. No gas, no oil. When you want something from us, you will buy on our contractual basis. You will buy for rubles, Russian ruble, or you will pay in gold. When you don't want it, we will not deliver. And as far as Ukraine goes, you won't get any gas this winter season. Wait and see. Just wait and see. What will happen? In 3 months' time, Europe will be on the knees. You know, the talk about sanctions against Russia will be long gone. Why?
You know, they just said they're coming out with an 8th set. I mean, my goodness, your 8th set of sanctions. Or van der Leyen, who really does seem to be this crazy kind of lunatic here. The 8 sanctions, their 8th package. Like, what can you do? You know, what really can you do at this stage?
We either comply with the idiots, with the green zealots, or we will stand our ground and take the power back to the people, you know, because otherwise they will starve us with Klaus Schwab to our death. We will have no oil, no gas, no heating, and no industry left.
So Zoro, are the people of Europe cognizant of just how dangerous this has become for the continent?
I don't suppose so, because, as you well know, the people are simply stupid in their majority. 90% of people know absolutely nothing about the world, how it works in reality. They want beer, they want chicks, and they want some comfort in life, you know? And they will think and they will act only when something happens. We will see. It's happening now, and it will happen more. We will see very heavy social disorder here in Europe, but don't clap your hands, because you will have some social disobedience and social disorder yourself in the United States.
Mm.
It is in the cards. You can see already all the signs for it.
What are what's the Polish government saying about this? I mean, what's the official position of these pipelines being blown up?
The same as London, it means Russia did it. Russia did it. We are sure.
Really?
Everybody knows Russia did it.
Mm. And then how about the Germans?
The Germans said straight away it was a sabotage. It was sabotage, military sabotage. It's an act of war. We will wait and see to check who did it, who did this act of war against us. You know, they cannot say anything else at this point. They cannot. They are
So the
simply
situation we have then, if I'm going to hear this, is that we have about 110 plus cubic meters per year, billion cubic meters per year now off the market for good. Probably 6 months minimum before they even look at repairing. And then if they can repair it, type of thing. So, okay, 11, what is it, 100 plus billion cubic meters taken off. You guys, your pipeline was really only for yourselves. It was never meant to be a distribution hub. So that is fake news. You'll be lucky. It's 10 billion for you, and you're not going to be able to spread that around. And you're saying that the pipelines coming through Ukraine now are going to be shut down even more so because, hey, sorry guys, you want to play hardball with us? This is how we play the game, and we're not going to ship any more through Ukraine. Let us resolve the Ukraine issue first.
when it doesn't happen, which I doubt, the Turkish stream is already on the ropes, because
That's what I
the
heard,
company
yes.
that runs it lost its license. What does it mean? It means by any problems whatsoever, this pipeline will be shut down. And
Where was the license granted? Which country?
in Netherlands,
Netherlands. So
yes,
it's not Brussels, but it's
no,
Netherlands.
it is close by, some 100 miles away.
Okay, so basically it's with Brussels' assent. They're saying, hey, look, revoke this thing.
Yes, correct.
I didn't hear that. I didn't know that. So literally what pipelines are left then coming into Europe?
Only the ones that from Soviet times running through Ukraine. It's a whole ecosystem of those pipelines, and so far they are working and pumping fuel. But you know, we will wait and see what happens with the annexation of Novorossiya, what it is called in Moscow. Yesterday was very important date, because the four new republics agreed they want to be part of Russian Federation, and Putin signed the documents. They will be approved by the State Duma, I mean Russian Parliament, on Monday, and on Wednesday it will be signed as is presumed by the President Putin. And from this moment on, the east territories of Ukraine will be part of Russia. And it means, as Patrushev and Putin and Mr. The chief of the Security Council of Russia said, we will treat it accordingly when these the new republics will be part of Russian Federation. We will be obliged to defend them. It means all our military might, including what we know as atomic arsenal. And the West commented upon it. Oh, Russia is very powerful, but we are not afraid of your rockets. And Putin wants nuclear Armageddon over Ukraine and so on and so forth, which is not.
What I don't get is that the United States, the European Union, certainly Poland too, none of us have any treaties with this Ukrainian government, with this nation. Nobody has anything to do with this, and yet we are acting as if we're almost subservient to this clown running the Ukraine. What do you make of all that?
It was so until early February. Early February, Poland signed new treaty. It was a shotgun wedding, so to speak, between Poland, Great Britain, and Ukraine. And the godfather of the ceremony was, Boris Johnson. And therefore, in recent months and weeks, he was officially in Kiev 7 times. And unofficially, I suppose every weekend he conferred with his buddy in Kiev with Zelensky. You can clearly see a pattern here. The pilot of this coup, the pilot of this operation in Ukraine was clearly Premier Johnson. Now, I suppose it will be Miss Truss. So it's very unsavory situation. It looks like we are defending democracy and so on, but in reality, it is a private war of Anglo-Saxons, I mean Americans, with Englishmen at the front, with Russia in Ukraine. It's a proxy war. However, you can tell it apart, looking for the initial impetus, for the real issue at work here. You will always find the culprits: London, Washington, and, by the way, Warsaw. Why? Because Warsaw is the vicinity. We are the neighbor of Ukraine from the west, and therefore we bear the brunt of all the sanctions. We are getting here 2 million of war fugitives. We are paying them social security and so on and so forth.
All right, with that, we're going into a break. Hold that thought. We're going into a break. Zazoro from Warsaw. Welcome back. It's the Fetch Inside the Eye, live intelligent media for the politically aware. Coming to you live from Riyadh, where it's been a somewhat of a quiet day here. Quiet month, actually, for me, and I think for a lot of others. It's kind of like a calm before the storm. We're waiting to see what is going to break. But for our guest here, he goes by the name of Zazoro Zawati. He is, a business, let's just say a media intelligence analyst, open source business media intelligence analyst out of Warsaw. And for him, it's not the calm before the storm. It is in the eye of the storm at this stage, which is actually not even the eye of the storm. It's already passed over him. It's now turmoil everywhere. And Zazoro, I'll tell you, with the pipelines going down, what do you call it? the acquisition or the annexation of the 4 provinces in the southern part of Ukraine, with your government absolutely playing hardball with the Russians, which is a very difficult toe to play. And now with the Nord Stream pipelines out, Europe is in for such a rocky 6 months, let alone 3 months, but the next 6 months are going to be disastrous. And moving forward, we see some changes, though. You have what they always say far right. They never say far left, but it's always far right, but a new government in Sweden. What are you hearing about this government in Sweden?
As you see, it was a surprise for everybody because in Sweden it was always after the war the socialists, I mean social democrats, socialists, they were middle of the road socialists. I mean, not the social warriors as now in United States. They were middle of the road social democrats from the years 1960. And it worked very well for Sweden because it is a small country, but very well kept. They have top-notch industry. For example, Volvo. Now it belongs to Geely. It is a Chinese company, but the quality of the product is very high, as you can check on the roads. IKEA, it's Sweden. And they have very good social security, very good standard of living, comparable to, say, Austria and to Switzerland. They lived very well, but now they are simply overwhelmed with blacks, with browns, with this tremendous importation of elements from all over the world. I'm not against migration, I understand that people must live somewhere. They are looking for greener pastures. It's okay. But when you overwhelm a country of some 10 million people with, say, 2 million immigrants, you will ruin it. And it is happening now as we speak. So the party from, they call it far right, it is middle of the road Democrats, nationalistic Democrats. Nobody wanted anything to do with them because it is a niche party. They can gather normally 7% of the votes when it's good. And now this party from the outside, so to speak, from the outside of the establishment, came to power in Sweden. It is a surprise for everybody, and the first that were surprised is Washington. Why? Because Sweden wanted, a couple of months ago, wanted to join NATO. And now you can bet 100% they will not follow with this project. Why? Because they were always, after the war, independent. They are staying aside from all the troubles. And now that trouble is brewing in Europe between Russia and NATO, they simply have no interest taking a side in this battle, and they will stay neutral, as was always the case. 80 years, very smooth sailing. You can check in court documents, for example, the case between Gazprom and Poland was handled where? In Stockholm. Why? Because they simply don't take sides. They are neutral. And so I believe Swedes want to stay neutral, and they will stay so. Good for them.
So that's one nationalist government coming to power. Obviously, immigration is a huge story across Europe. But the second one then is Italy. You have this Ms. Maloney, who's being hailed as this great savior of Italy, you know, the second coming of Mussolini's daughter, something to that effect in some stories, and how she's such a great nationalist. She speaks for, let's say, traditional values. All of these are really good things. But there's a little shady part to this lady that perhaps people should be aware of. And that is she's part of some foundation coming out of Colorado.
Yes, she is simply a part, hidden part of the military industrial complex because somebody must, as always is the case, must pay the bills. Who pay the bills of this lady? Military industrial complex in Italy, very powerful, with deep connections to P4 Lodge, to Berlusconi, for example, and therefore he's back in parliament. Usual suspects from the old guard. It is not a very bad sign for Italy because the old industrialists want to stay afloat. They don't want green energy, they don't want social revolution, and they don't want, I'm sure, the Great Reset. They want to enjoy life. And it is all now.
So is that kind of like then? That's an interesting take that I hadn't even thought of. So this is just really Italy's traditional values, but they're old industrials exerting a little bit of pressure. It's kind of like, from what I understand, with Greece, where the Greece are, you know, the Greek shippers, they control Greece, you know, the shipping magnates, they control that country, and they pretty much tell the Greek parliament what to do with the prime minister. And they're saying, don't you even think about going in against Russia and trying to sanction their oil and the shipping of their oil. So then we would have two countries on the southern flanks here, both Greece and Italy, with long traditional industrial bases, starting to exert some influence over this leftist nutcase green cult, because that's kind of what it is. Is that kind of what's
Yes,
happening?
yes, and predictably, you can bet on it. The whole union will break apart. European Union, you first heard it here, will break apart. Nobody understanding the situation gives European Union more than 6 months time until breakup.
Well, that's huge. That's like just over the horizon. You know what I mean?
Maybe,
That's literally over the horizon. You know, you have people like van der Leyen gets up there. She's not elected by anybody in Europe whatsoever, saying, "Hey, look, if things don't go according to the way we view things, we have tools to basically tell the Italians we're going to punish the hell out of you if you don't have your government do what we tell you to do." I can imagine that not just in Italy, but all across Europe, people are looking at this woman saying, "Hey, she's completely out of control. She's whacked." Is that happening?
you will see it because Brussels know they have no alternative plan. There is no going back now. They can only press ahead over the cliff, and it will happen. The Southern Europe will break from the core because they cannot afford to lose 30% of GDP. They cannot afford it. And they will lose it because they are always not price competitive towards Germany, whereas Germany already isn't competitive on the international market. Germany is already in recession. Guess what happens in Italy when there is 10% unemployment in Germany? In Italy, it will be 30%. You cannot stand it. Socially, it is unbearable situation. What
Now,
happens?
haven't the
It will.
Italians traditionally, though, relied more on southern oil channels like Libya, Algeria, Egypt, even for natural gas, perhaps? Is Italy a little bit, I don't know, isolated or insulated from what's going on the Nord Stream front?
Partially, yes, but you can bet on it that when the trouble breaks out in Black Sea, the maritime route to southern Italy will be blocked too. I mean Mediterranean. Expect port blockades, expect maritime war, expect problems with fuel everywhere. Why? Check the history books. What happened during first period of World War II with Japan, for example? We had not hot war. We had only some blockades on high seas. Yes, and Japan, after 1 year, said enough is enough. We will go hot with the war, and the war in the Pacific broke out. Why? Because of the blockade, naval blockade, because Japan didn't get the fuel for the industry, the coal and the oil. And now, guess what happens in Europe when we don't get energy for our industries?
But the difference here is that you're sanctioning yourselves to start with. I mean, the
Yes,
Europeans are sanctioning themselves. So it's not like Russia's like saying, you can't buy from me. Russia's saying, hey, look, you're playing hardball. You're playing the neocon game. We don't trust the dollar anymore. They just stole $300 billion in your banks. We would like to see our 300 billion back. So since your dollars are worthless, you pay us in rubles, and we're going to back the ruble with gold, which is even better for us and the people who want to invest in the ruble. So it is a little different than World War II because now the sanctioning party are the Europeans themselves. What are they going to do? Try to invade Russia to take the oil? The Germans
net
couldn't do
effect,
that in 1942. There's no way you're going to do that today.
net effect for the society and for industry is the same. Without fuel, it doesn't work. We simply
How you going
go
to,
under.
that's what I'm saying. How are you going to even fight a war? You know, you need fuel to run your militaries, to run everything. Europe is in such a bad state right now. I can't imagine how fast this political class has destroyed the continent. You know what I mean? The Stoltzes, how fast he and his administration literally have destroyed Germany. It's unbelievable the speed at which they have destroyed that country.
Uh, please check forex exchange. For example, the cross rate of euro against dollar. Check the cross rate in pound against English pound against dollar. Check the cross rate uh, Swiss franc against dollar. You will see consistently dollar is going up and all the other currencies are going down. Why? Because of this war. It, it is not about Ukraine itself. It is about destroying industry, destroying the monetary system, the foundation of monetary system in Europe. And it will happen because the system in Europe is totally corrupt and it is simply not sustainable anymore. It will break apart. So why don't we make something about it that serves our purposes? That's the great plan. Ukraine is only a sideshow for this to happen because always every war was over money. I don't mean some dollar or yuan or ruble. I mean money in as a as a tool of
Well, yeah, that's what Churchill said. He said basically that the great crime of Germany wasn't because it was necessarily an evil country. It was because it was putting forward an economic system that was actually better than the current banking system. And for that, she had to be destroyed.
Yes, but this time, as you can see, with Germany, England goes under just the same. Why? Because it is in Europe. Check the cross
You
rate,
know, here's the
the
thing.
GDP
What
against
I
dollar.
don't get, Cesaro, and Putin talked about this in his speech in an indirect way, but the United States has literally declared financial war against its partners, the Europeans. It's gone and blown up their pipeline. And the European leaders are just so meek and cowardly. They don't say a word. They don't say a peep. They just take it like, okay, what do you want to do to us next? It's like the ultimate victim pleading to be more of a victim because they're just feeling so powerless. Go ahead and hurt me more. I don't care. Please do it. The weakness on behalf of European leadership is just astounding to me. I don't know what you
The
think.
dollar declared war on the entire world, not only Europe, entire world. Why? Because the mighty dollar is the powerful reserve currency of the world now, the only one. And the planists in Washington take advantage of it because it's the last moment to do so in World War. You always play, when you wage war against anybody, you always play the card of currency when you have one. Dollar is the one world currency now. The new order will be otherwise. I don't know how it will look like. Schwab says we will have some digital currency for the world, yes? And guaranteed basic income and so on and so forth. Russia says no, we, the BRICS, will have some commodity-based, value-based, natural value-based currency from the basket of coal, energy, oil, steel, and so on and so forth. We will wait and see what happens. But now, just now, the dollar is the king, and the kingmaker will use it till the death. So it was always this way.
We come then to the gauntlet being thrown down by Putin yesterday in his speech saying, hey, look, we are at war with this monstrosity, what is really this collective satanic system. And we have really no other choice but to stand and fight against it. And then he's putting out, I guess, words to the Western people. Look, you're being deceived, everybody. You're being fooled. Things are not out there like your governments are saying they are. And perhaps you need to wake up yourselves and do something because where you're headed is not a good place. How did Putin's speech play in Warsaw?
I can tell you what I gather from it because it is simply outlawed, so to speak. Nobody wanted to quote it in extenso. Nobody. Simply nobody knows what Putin means. And as I know that Putin is not our friend here, I'm listening and I'm reading what he says. And I want to understand what is his message. And I get it. He says what he means. And he means what he says. Exactly. You told it. He's standing up against satanic world order. That's the short story.
Yeah, and is it kind of, I know he said in 2015, he said, look, and we Russians, we tried to impose on Eastern Europe our version of production on the people. And it was wrong then, and we should not have done it, and we pay the price to this day because of what we did. Is forcing people to follow their system. And he said in 2015, this was wrong. This was something that we should never have done, and we still pay for it, from a moral, intellectual trust issue, I guess. And now today, he's saying the West is doing the exact same thing we were doing back then. And a lot of us have said the same thing, America's just Weimar Germany, the same thing in many respects, America. And probably the UK, it's just Weimar Germany all over again. But there's a more sinister element to it now. It's like, these
Yes.
guys are so powerful.
Yes, no doubt about it. And Putin, like him or not, he is trustworthy. Why? Because he is no communist. You can believe me. I checked his career, I checked his writings, I checked his deals, and so on and so forth. He is no communist. And he was chosen as the one to save Russia during Yeltsin time, 2000, year 1999, 2000. He was
Do we
chosen
have a
by
situation?
Yeltsin.
Yeah, okay. Say he's chosen. Do we have a situation then, because it appears that way, that you have a Trump was chosen to kind of beat back this cabal in Washington? People will disagree with that. Maloney in Italy appears to be somewhat chosen. Sweden is kind of like I don't know, an anomaly at this stage. There's nothing really happening in all of Europe other than this. And then you have Putin going on. So in some respects, at least in your opinion, there is some pushback against the New World Order.
Yes, and it is gathering, it is really, it is gathering speed every hour now. Why? Because people simply see the effects of the failed policies. They don't understand what is happening, but they know it is not right. Something doesn't add up.
Is Klaus Schwab a household name yet in Poland?
Not for housewives. I mean, 5 to 7% of population know about him. All the people that are simply open to the world know this name, but you can bet everybody Joe Sixpack doesn't know anything about him and his plans.
So I guess the Poles are just as naive as a lot of everybody else. How's your economy? You got about 30 seconds. How's the economy there? How are you guys holding out?
We are entering recession, and it will be very heavy for Poland. We will have.
Last time we talked, your economy was doing well. You said there's jobs for Ukrainians. If they want them, you're already in recession now.
No, but without fuel, nothing works. We are entering severe recession in fourth quarter of this year. We will have problems in first quarter of 23. Very deep. We will have our currency deep diving, and so on and so forth.
All right, Zazoro, that's it. You hear the music in the background. Thanks for stopping by. That was a wonderful chat. Everybody, Zazoro.blogspot.com. Back with more right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's the Fetch Inside the Eye, live intelligent media for the politically aware. Again, it's a good Saturday morning to afternoon, wherever you're listening out there. I guess it's early evening for those of us here in European to Asian times. I'm actually Moscow time zone. Riyadh and Moscow share the exact same time. So it is 8 o'clock. They may be on daylight savings times. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know if they are. We don't change here. It's just 8 o'clock in the evening here. I've got a quick cat report. We've got a new kitten running around the house. I don't know where she is. She is not bothering me too much today, which is a good thing. But I'll tell you, it's kind of fun to have a cat running around the house, although my feet, guys, look like they have just gone through a meat grinder because this little one loves to just bite my feet for some reason. And so I'm trying to keep it clean or something. Maybe she thinks it's dead meat or something. I I don't know. But she's being polite. She's not like bothering me for food right now or anything. I don't even know where she is. But I assume she's around somewhere. But been a good time, just to have a little bit of company in the house. It's kind of been kind of fun. So all that's kind of cool. Anyways, that was Zoro. Zoro's got a long time he's been a guest here, and I think 90% of the stuff we've agreed with. And I'd love to get his take. As you know, he's in Warsaw, in Poland. He has his own blog, Zoro.blogspot.com. It's back in the day, like a lot of us, it was actually doing really, really, really well. He still has a pretty good following out there, readership, I really should say. And then he's got his own private business where he pulls in and does analysis and sells that analysis, most of it having to do with business and financial.